Greetings and salutations, everyone, and welcome to tonight's middle of the night bonus upload. What happens when the military comes up on Dogman? Well, we'll find out. Before we get into it, though, a couple links. As you all know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It doesn't cost a cent. Click that like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because these things help this channel to continue to grow and go, and yes, they do matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to tonight's middle of the night bonus upload, shall we? Today's first encounter, proof of Dogman in Afghanistan. During my second deployment, I was a corpsman in a small JTAC team attached to the Georgian Army, northwest of Sangin. We would patrol to a number of small villages from our PB. It was spring at this point, so it was starting to warm up. During one of our patrols, we went to this village, and a couple of people that lived there, including the village elder, came up to us asking for help about two missing villagers. Our patrol goes into the village and we ask them questions like, are they male or female? Where do they live? When did they go missing? At this point, my Marines and I think that the Taliban kidnapped them for ransom or something. It was two adult males that had gone missing 2 days ago. I think they were cousins or somehow related. So we think that it's pretty much confirmed that the Taliban had kidnapped them. On our way to the hut and ask them if the Taliban had been in their village and if anyone had heard them getting kidnapped. They tell us that the Taliban have not been to their village since last summer and the Taliban did not kidnap them. They tell us that the night that they went missing, everyone heard loud, deep growling coming from their hut. We get to their hut and we see a bunch of gashes on the hut. At first, we thought they were from machetes, but when we got closer, we saw that it was 3 lines, like scratches, like huge cat scratches in the front of the hut. Each 3 jagged scratches were about as long as from my fingers to my elbows. At that point, we go into the house, and it's all ripped apart. At first, it looked like it had been ransacked. But no, a bunch of stuff was just ripped up, like clothes, blankets, with no blood anywhere. So we take a couple of pictures with our captain's camera and took as much info from the villagers as we could and made our way back to our PB. We reported to our TOC about the missing villagers, and they said they would forward the info to the Afghan police in the area. What a laugh. After that, we started patrolling the villages around the one that the missing villagers were from, in case the Taliban were trying to get into the villages. But we were all really stumped from what we had saw in that hut. There had been no blood whatsoever, along with a bunch of claw marks. The villagers had said that the Taliban had not been in their village for 7+ months, so we had no idea what had happened to them. We kind of forgot about the missing villagers in the coming weeks because the fighting season was almost here. Temps were coming back up and the Taliban were being spotted out more. It was about 2 to 3 weeks after the missing villagers that we started seeing a spotter on the hill about 1.5 kilometers away, just standing and looking at our PB. So of course this is a bad sign and that the Taliban are starting to come out of hiding. Well, he was always up there around noonish, just watching us.
We tried to get a good view of him, although our ACOGs, binos, and scope from any M24 that we had, but he always was in a shadow or too far away. One day we were patrolling into the missing people's village. The village size is about 35 to 50, depending on family visiting or people buying from them. Well, we get near the village and no one is around. Usually when this happens, it's because they know the Taliban are in the area and there might be a firefight. So we are on the edge as we make our way into the village. Our RO calls into the TOC to see if there are any ANP in the area that we know of, if there has been any Taliban activity in the area. We enter the village and it's completely silent. The atmosphere in the village was like we were being watched, and even though it was the afternoon, the sun was being covered by clouds, so it made the village look a lot darker than it should have been. This is when our FO, our forward observer, decided to check the hill that spotter had been seen on. The hill was visible in certain parts of the village, so he and 2 Georgian soldiers went to go get eyes on it. We started knocking on doors to see if people were just hiding in their homes, but all the huts that we went to were locked, and we didn't hear any movement or sounds coming from inside the huts. While we were checking the huts, our FO gets back to us and says the hill's empty. We're still on edge, and there was a very uncomfortable feeling that we were having about being here. All of us were kind of silent, agreed to wrap this patrol up and head out since we were getting weirded out. We started heading out of the village when one of the Georgians pointed out 3 huge scratches on the front of the hut that the village elders lived in. We checked the door and it was open, so we decided to go inside. Inside there was nothing strange, no broken items or torn clothes. We left his hut and wondered if this was connected to the disappearances. This is when my captain told us to look towards the west, towards the spotter's hill. There, on top of the hill, stood a black figure watching us. He was a lot closer than when we were trying to get a look at him from our PB, so we sighted in on him to try to see what he looked like. Our RO was carrying a sniper rifle, so he sighted in on him, as the rest of us took cover behind some huts, so the spotter wouldn't be able to see us. Our RO was telling us that he still couldn't get a good view on the spotter. He said the cloud shadow was not covering the hill, but the sun was casting a shadow on one of the trees the spotter was under, and it was making him hard to get a good look at him. We talked to see if it would be a good idea if we should corner him. The hill was only about 500 meters away, so this was our point. Our captain squashed that idea, saying he didn't want us chasing spotters out in the open. We decided, too, that this patrol was done, and we headed back to our PB. As we made our way back while checking our rear, I sighted in on the spotter, and it looked like he was pointing. I couldn't really tell because I only had that ACOG, but it didn't seem to be pointing at the patrol. I told my RO since he had that sniper rifle, and he said the same thing. The spotter was pointing at the village. Today's second encounter. A woman claimed she observed the interaction between 2 groups of Bigfoot and Dogman creatures in the forest of an undisclosed location in the United States. These sightings happened between November and December of 2012. I saw them together at night a few times, and at first I thought they were just all Bigfoot, she said. But there were more animal-looking with protruding faces. At first, she states she thought they were young Bigfoot because she was initially used to seeing Dogman individuals exclusively during the daytime. They like to sun themselves usually every 3 days or the next sunny day after a rain. According to the woman, this time was different. The two unproven animal species were sharing the same space, in what she says looked like some sort of symbiotic relationship. I got the impression they were tolerant of each other, although the Bigfoot seemed in charge. It reminded me of a relationship between hippos and crocodiles. The hippos rule the river and they share the territory, but both don't want to mess with each other out of fear of being harmed, she explains. I watched them as they peeked from the bush. They were visibly bold, easier to make out than the Bigfoot. They were very unorganized when they moved. They moved as individuals without cover from the others. If one wanted to move, it would just move. They were also not experts in hiding, although they did try to camouflage. Some liked to stand in the V part of the tree trunks and weave dead brush around them. The way they weaved the brush reminded me of a spider web. They were very alert to their surroundings and seemed to notice me when I tried to photograph them. That's when they would freeze, point and stare. She describes the animal as being the size of a man with pointed ears placed on top of their heads. Their bodies were reportedly covered in brown patchy hair and had human-like fingers with thick claws. I can't be sure how many fingers they had because they seemed to have an additional appendage. It was on top of their hand, along their wrist area. They liked to point by raising their arm up and extending it in front of them, and they would use their index finger. They carried their arms a certain way, with their elbows against their sides and their forearms in front with their palms facing down. The smallest I could see were about 2 feet tall. I think they were babies. They must communicate, but I don't know how. Possibly through sense or nonverbal language. She believes urban expansion is the reason these two purported species have been forced to tolerate each other. One of the best places to live and fastest growing city in the state, they cut large sections of forest. And with the closing of mines, I had a feeling it was these circumstances that brought them together. She states she doesn't know where the Dogman creature live, but suspects they could be taking shelter inside a few old mines in the area, only venturing into the forest to gather food, such as raccoons, dogs, cats, rabbits, and other small forest animals. Many of the animals she was familiar with, she explains, have now gone missing. And it appears that food is not the only thing these purported beasts are after. She believes these are dangerous animals, are highly intelligent and capable of just more than hunting. Some appeared to be wearing ornate objects. They liked shiny things, while others wore trophies of animal skins on their head, necks, and shoulders. The real dangerous-looking ones carried weapons or metal objects in their hands. Everything about them screamed dangerous. Today's third encounter is a possible Sasquatch, possible Dogman, or unidentified cryptid. In the evening of September 10th, 2018, a man was driving down a rural road in Derry Township in Westmoreland County, Pennsylvania. It was a rainy night when his headlights caught something about 75 feet ahead of him. It seemed to appear out of nowhere. Whatever it was in the middle of the road and moving from left to right. The witness said when he first saw this being, he at first thought it was just fog. He soon realized there was no fog in the surrounding area. The witness said it was hard to describe what he saw, and that it was humanoid form that was foggy or misty in appearance. The man stated that it was a foggy white form. It was about 6.5 to 7 foot tall. The creature seemed to be somewhat stooped as it moved. The physical traits that stood out were the large muscular shoulders and small waist. There was a head, but he couldn't clearly see it. The arms and legs were also not clearly discernible. The witness observed the creature from his left side for several seconds. The creature crossed the road and entered into a field where it seemed to just vanish. The man couldn't see its feet and stated that it moved almost like it was floating. The witness didn't notice a smell or sound during the observation.
All right, guys, just a quick middle of the night bonus upload to get us through the night, get us into tomorrow morning. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. Guys, thank you for supporting this channel. Your support is truly what makes it special and what continues to make it grow and go. Everyone, please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, our pets, our family, and friends. These creatures are real. They are out there. They are dangerous. Share this information with the people you love and care about. It may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions. Never stop searching for answers. And God bless.